I'm just going to I'm going to give you some words, and I just want you to think about, I want you to let your mind wander to the first thing that comes. Abuse of power. Cover up. Scandals. Broken systems. Lack of accountability. Most of us, when we hear those that train of words, most of us, our minds are going to something other. We're going to the big events. Our minds land in political fields, things that are happening in our nation, things that are happening across the globe. Some of us are thinking about the things that have just hit home this week. I mean, in the last 2 weeks, as the state has fired the director of all vaccines. We think about the scandals and the things and the companies such as Enron. While it's been years ago, we still have that in our brain. We think about other denominational scandals and cover-ups. But how many of us think about those things in our own lives? The ways that we ourselves have abused power, covered up, gone into hiding. You see, it's actually in our nature that we do that. It's in the very core of our beings. It's been there from the beginning. It's not an other, it's an us. It's been there since the moment where God said, you know, here's the boundary and I don't want you to cross it. You can do anything, but I don't want you to do this one thing. And in the human nature and the human psyche and the core, what that one thing became the temptation, and that one thing turned into something that as soon as it happened, there was this desire to cover it up, to go into hiding and to try to whisk away the very decision and action that had occurred. It followed. It's not something that went away when Jesus came on the scene. Jesus said to those that he loved the most, he's like, you're gonna stand and deny me. You're not gonna just go away from me once. You're gonna do it 3 times. There's gonna be this series of things that you say, oh, I'm not a part of that. And within hours, the very one that God had already labeled the rock, that said, you're gonna be the leader of the next wave of believers. You're going to be the one that invites people in. In the next few hours, Peter is standing there saying, I don't know this Jesus. He denies. He hides, he covers, he hovers in the darkness around the corner because he doesn't want to be associated with something that's going to take away his story, that's going to hurt his reputation. And then in the middle of all that, there's this crazy story of David. And the story, I think, shows our true humanness. It shows every ounce of who we are as beings. He's somebody that really loves God. He wants to honor God. But David's in a position of power. If you've never been to that part of the world, it's very common to be on your roof. It's the place where you can get the breeze. It's the place where you can feel the marble on your feet and be cool just a little bit. And David can see a lot of rooftops because his house is higher than anybody else's. More than likely, he's seen this person more than once, this woman, but something happens to him this day. And he says, go, I want you to go figure who this person is. And he abuses his power. This faithful person of God abuses his power because the person could not have refused. She had to come to the king. And not only did he abuse his power, but then he does something and he tries to cover it up. And he succeeds. He's ashamed because there's no way that people aren't going to figure out that this is his baby. There's no way. And so he starts rewriting the narrative. He starts manipulating the conversation. And eventually, there's a murder. He puts the person on the front line. And as we're thinking about the story, we're thinking again about all these other things, about all these other scandals, about the other. About how everybody else breaks the system, how everybody else abuses power, how everybody else outside of the walls of God break the covenant and harm other people. We don't want to think about ourselves, but the three stories that I just mentioned, the one that is part of our creation has been told, the story of the night that Jesus went to the cross for us, and here in the middle, they're all about all of us. They're not about some other. It's about all of us because all of us are human. And it's in our nature to want to hide and deflect and defend and send away and cover up. And yet it's hard for us to think about it in terms of ourselves. But I want to just a second, I want you to think for just a second, when in your life, think hard. When have you created a narrative that protected you? Somebody did something in response to what you did, but you actually turned the story and you made yourself the victim when in fact you were the one, we were the one that started the conversation, that ended it badly. And yet we've changed the narrative to cover up our own actions, our own missteps. I want us, 99% of us in this room are a shade that gives us privilege. We are well resourced. And I'm not talking just financially. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about we are well resourced individuals in this room who have been educated, who have had experiences beyond our hometowns, who have been and seen other parts of the country and other parts of the world. We are well resourced. When did we abuse our power? How have we abused our power? Have we been the ones to hear a story and to know that that is not right? We've seen something and not stood up for it? How many of us have used our privilege to get what we wanted without regard with someone else? I don't know about you, but I got to tell you, I mess up all the time. And the hard thing is that the world outside isn't just listening to these stories of David or the beginning or the stories of Peter. No, they're watching us. And they're not just watching those that are in leadership. They're watching all of us. And the ways that we manipulate, the ways that we abuse power, the ways that we deflect and defend and have no accountability, that is what is turning people away from coming to Jesus. All of us have heard, I don't want to be a part of something where there's a bunch of hypocrites. Really, what people are saying in that statement is that I want to be a part of a community where people, when we get it wrong, we admit it. They're saying to us, I want to be a part of a community that when we abuse power, we take a second and we confess those things. That we try to do no harm. And I know I've gotten it wrong. I will tell you, I've gotten it wrong. It's been a difficult year. And there have been moments where instead of us all trying to make decisions, few of us made decisions, and we made right decisions that were right for our community at the time. But there has been harm done because it was different. It wasn't the same. And it felt like I've left people out. There have been times where I have had a hard day and I've lost my patience. And I want to be the type of person, I want to be the thief on the cross that says, hey, Jesus, would you remember me? I don't want to be the thief on the cross that just denies everything. That goes into hiding like David, that says, I'm innocent. And so today, Jesus is asking us, God is asking us, who do we want to be? Are we going to be the Davids of the world, that we use our power, that we change the narrative, that we do what we want to do, and we never say, I'm sorry? We never take accountability for our actions? Or do we want to be the type of people who, when we harm our person at work, we go to them and we say, I'm really sorry that I've slandered, I've been the one? Are we going to be the ones to speak out when we look even in our United Methodist system? Or we look in our system in our city? Are we going to say, no, that's not right? Are we going to be the one to ask and to say that we got it wrong? Because there is scandal, there is murder, and it is not an other, it is us. Who do we want to be? Let us pray.